So who is Jesus to me? That's a great question. And I like to respond in this way. Following the death of my father in the autumn last year, there was one thing I wanted from the family home. And it was this plaque. Let us fix our eyes upon Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith.
When I was younger, I pictured Jesus as someone who was perfect and did everything right. But as I've grown up and developed a deeper understanding of who I feel that Jesus is, I think that Jesus was really radical and said and did some things that people just didn't understand and were really offended by at times, because he was standing up for things that went against the grain of the cultural norms of that day.
I think I've moved into a place where Jesus was this brave criminal almost, where he just knew what the rules were and followed the important ones that he felt were divinely led, but looked at the other ones and said, well, hang on a minute, you know, this is not right, so let's do something about it, and broke laws and changed things and suffered the consequences for that. I guess for me, I've changed. I've moved from this place of this godlike creature to a human being who was standing up for what he believed.
At first, I was always intimidated by the thought of Jesus because he was supposedly perfect and sacrificed so much for all of us. But then I realized that he had his times of turmoil and conflict within himself, and that makes it easier for me to accept the turmoil that I have to face and get through in my life. I see Jesus as both a comfort and a challenge. In a comforting sense, he's helping me along on my journey and at the same time challenging me to go further as a person and become who I'm supposed to be.
I remember in England we had a little character called Fog, friend of God. And so I thought of my relationship with God and Jesus in that sort of terms. More lately, I've thought of Jesus as more of the sacrifices he's made for us, and how much courage that would take.
During those dark times of my life, Jesus has walked with me, even though I didn't know that Jesus was there. But Jesus has never failed me as a friend, and never, ever, ever, ever will fail me.
It's easiest for me to talk about not necessarily like who Jesus is to me, but maybe point to the places where Jesus shows up in my life. And I think Jesus, for me, shows up when the walls that we have built up around us come crashing down, and that space of vulnerability becomes a real transformative thing. When Jesus shows up in that place, that's when we really come to understand who Jesus is.
Para mí es bastante importante el compartir, el testificar de ese Cristo, de esa persona, de lo que hace, de lo que puede, de lo que tiene para otros. No quiero ser egoísta y quedarme solo yo con esto, sino que compartirlo con los demás. Entonces, para mí eso significa invitar a otros a Cristo. Y yo creo que esta es quizá no tenemos que verlo tanto como una responsabilidad, sino que el deseo, cuando tú y yo tenemos algo que disfrutamos, algo que nos ha traído un beneficio en nuestra vida, queremos compartirlo con otros.
There was this guy who, this young man who had some serious addiction issues, and he was in the hospital, and my friend and I got a call one night to go visit him. And as we're walking down the hallway towards his room, we heard him asking the nurse, you know, who's coming to visit me? Is it my mother? Is it my brother? And the nurse said, no, it's not them. And as soon as we walked into the room, this expression of joy came on his face, and he said, it's not my mother or my brother. but it is my family. And to me, that's what Jesus was. It was just trying to make those who felt like they're on the fringes be like family to everyone.
Jésus, c'est mon tout. Il est mon exemple, ma lumière et ma vie. Il m'accompagne et je le sens et je le sais. Et cette invitation, je la lance à tous de trouver ce Jésus, de trouver ce Christ qui est autour de vous, peut-être sans que vous le sachiez. Mais pour moi, il est celui qui m'a apporté la liberté d'être moi, la liberté de partager, la liberté de recevoir, la liberté d'être et de vivre. Il m'a sauvée.
So why would we be asking the question, who is Jesus to me? In LCM, we've been learning that asking essential questions is more important than rushing to simple or easy answers. As we ask who Jesus is to each of us, that leads us into a process of discovery. As we discover who Jesus is, we find ways to be in relationship with Jesus that lead us into this interconnected web of relationships that we are called into in the world. In the words of one author, the sign of genuine love is that we become whom we love. As we seek who Christ is, we get to know him better, and we become who it is that we seek.